Even this last week, I've had so many clients that were like so down in the dumps, and people have to stop and know, number one, yes, it could be really hard. You could have lost your job and don't know where your next money, and that's good. But it seems to be compiled by this energy of fear all around the planet, and then this weird political thing, whatever that is. And even if you're not political, you're absorbing all this.
Hello, beautiful supporters. Thank you for tuning in into another episode of Support Sister. I am your host, Anya Day. In today's episode, I get to interview Karen Rontowski. She is a stand-up comedian, tarot card reader, and paranormal investigator. Tune in as we dive into the mystical world of tarot cards and the paranormal. We also discuss the importance of the human journey, the energy of Los Angeles, and showing compassion, especially during this great awakening. As always, thank you for joining, and I hope that this episode provides you with some sort of valuable insight. Enjoy. Okay, I am so excited for this. I would love to introduce Karen Rontowski. She has been my personal tarot card reader for quite some time now, and I felt like the energetic pull to bring her on and interview her because she has such good energy, and I thought everyone else could benefit from it. So Karen Rontowski has an interesting background, stand-up comedian, tarot card reader for over 20 years, and
30.
30 years.
Probably 30.
Ooh.
I'm old.
No, not all. And a paranormal investigator. So I feel like that is just a winning combination right there, and we can dive into so much. So, Karen, welcome, and thank you so much for doing this with me.
Anytime. Thank you for having me. It's always good. It's Friday. It's my day off from reading, so I'm so happy. So happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And I've been looking, like when I was making my appointment, you were always booked. I feel like there's been like a spike or something because of the times we are living in, but you are just always just like packed. And I was like, damn, I gotta like make a month in advance right now.
It is usually, it's at least 2 weeks to a month, which is good. Thank you. You know, I'm so happy to have the biz, but you know, I always did 2 weeks on the road doing comedy and then 2 weeks home doing tarot. And I would just keep flipping. So when COVID hit, I was like, wow, all I got is tarot. We'll see what happens. And it exploded. So I'm so lucky. Yeah, very lucky.
So let's dive in. How did you get into tarot reading?
Well, I always was, for some reason, when it comes to psychic stuff, I was always just a believer. I just believed in all of it, and I would go to psychics and stuff. Not a lot, but enough. And then I met the lady that I call my teacher, and she's in Encinitas. And she told me you should get a deck and you should try to learn. And she had all these little tricks she would teach me about the meaning of this card and how it connects to this card. And it was so fascinating. And I thought, well, this is like a puzzle. And if I just learn how to put it together, I should be able to do this, no problem. And that's where it started. And I just was, it's almost, I must have had a past life with the cards because I love them. And I never really gave up. And about 5 years ago, I was doing about 30 weeks a year on the road. And I was like, I can't travel that much. Let's see if this works. And it all just kind of came together. So I have a beautiful balance.
Oh, that's so awesome. And how did the paranormal side kick in as well?
You know, that was, I guess I was much braver when I was younger, and I would watch horror movies and stuff all the time. Like, I have a friend that I have conversations with him about fear, how we actually, human beings, fear can help us process something. So then when I was on the road, I'd go to all these haunted places. And then when Ghost Hunters came on the air, I was like, oh, there's a way to do this. And I just kept going. And actually still one of my most trusted, I'm going to call him a teacher, but he's also one of my best friends. And he's a demonologist. And I just happened to find an internet radio show. And I said, hey, do you guys want to work with a comedian? And they were like, yeah. And that's where I met my friend Thomas, who to this day, he and his wife are two of my best friends. And he taught me from this wonderful cautionary view, you know, you don't go in yelling, you know, I have had a little bit of trouble by making mistakes, but again, so grateful that I met people that were very cautious.
Yeah. Can you go in like a little bit more about just like ghosts? Like, are there different types of ghosts that exist, and like what has been like one of your most like vivid encounters?
Well, there's many different kinds of ghosts, and actually there's sort of a whole bunch of things within. Like people always think there's ghosts and then there's demons and angels, but there's a whole ton of things that are sort of on the in between, which could be fae, or they could be jinn, or they could be you know, many things, UFOs, whatever, all this kind of stuff in there. But when it comes to a spirit, like a human spirit, there's really two kinds of hauntings. There's a residual and there's a intellectual. And an intellectual is one you can communicate with, whether it's through your ghost hunting equipment or through a medium, because it actually feels like it's part of the person's consciousness, just like you and I are having this conversation. The other one is called a residual, and this is probably one of the most common. And it's just somebody's done the same thing over and over, and it sort of made this energetic imprint. So if I walk my dog every day and I go out the door, and you kind of need some emotion behind it. I think Michelle Belanger described it. Well, let me think. This is my favorite story. I feel like I need new stories. But my favorite story is this couple lived in this house forever. Finally, both of them passed away. Younger couple buys the house. Every morning they get up, the kitchen cabinets are open. They close them every morning. So finally they call the kids of the people they bought the house from, and they say, "What's that about?" And when the older couple bought the house and built it, the woman didn't want cabinets over the shelves. And one day she came home, the husband put them up. So every morning she would open them. And it was done with this emotion, so much emotion that even after they were gone, it continues. They see, you know, that energy continues to her residual energy comes in and opens those cabinets. That's a lot of what people see, especially when they see the same thing over and over. They might just see a residual energy of someone that walks around the corner. This was where they came from. But that isn't a threat, because there isn't anything to it.
So how, if it is a threat, how does one go about like confronting this threat?
Well, the first thing you have to do is assess what it is. Because if usually 90% of the time a human ghost isn't too much trouble, because a human can sort of a good average is a human can lift or push 1 to 2 pounds, really just 1 pound. So they can push something or they can slide something, but they can't really lift something. Once things in the house start moving that are of weight, or like it might be a heavy set of keys pops up somewhere else, that's when you sort of have to assess what it is and know how to then sort of say how to get rid of it. For most people that have spirits in their house, my first thing is always you kind of want to ignore it and see if it gets used to, because a lot of times too, when we investigate a home, if somebody has something troublesome in their home, we ask them to leave, because if they open a dialogue of communication, that thing will think, oh, we can talk anytime now. We'll wake them up in the middle of the night. So you want them to be like, think they're not aware, whereas then I come in and they don't care because they're not going to see me again. But if there's sort of steps that need to be taken, then you gather evidence and you can assess, usually a human spirit, if you get an EVP with them, you can be having a conversation or something like that. There's a lot of fae, or what we call fairies. And one of their habits is mimicking someone, is mimicking their voice. And I once did an investigation with my friend, and we were in a garage, and we happened to be talking about fairies. And she said, I heard that you throw rice and they scatter, they jump for it. They have to pick it up or something, which I don't think that's true, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then she continues to talk. And while she's talking, her voice comes over her voice and starts talking about someone else. So I have her like at the same time. The thing, yeah. And that's sort of a trick of that they kind of do. They make you think you're talking, or you may hear that person in this side of the house and they're actually on that side of the house. So that's one of the tricks. You know, we find out what's going on.
And is there like one main reason why like ghosts haven't? Is it because like their spirit just hasn't crossed over? Is that the main reason, or is like what compels them to stay in this dimension?
Sometimes it's a couple of different things. Sometimes it is that they don't know they're dead, or it can be, and that's when you kind of get into like that movie, The Others, where we don't know what they see. They might think they're in their house, and who's in my house when we're thinking who's in our house. It can be fragments of the person, which is a little closer to a residual. Where and some can cross over and come back and forth. So, and some I was with my friend Christine, who might be watching. I'll say hi, Christine. Christine Larson, she's a great ghost hunter. We were in a hotel room, very haunted hotel in Northern California, and the ghost did not want to pass over because he was afraid, he had been a criminal. He was afraid the people on the other side were going to get him, or sometimes they think God is going to be like, oh, I was really bad and I know it. So,
oh my gosh. So do you know if like other ghosts, they see each other and they can hang out with each other and just like have a party if they wanted to?
You know what? I think sometimes that's the funny thing, because we don't really know what they see. Like people are like, well, if there's ghosts, why don't they just step forward? Because sometimes it's very rare that you see a full body apparition. I have seen one once, and it wasn't in a ghost hunting atmosphere. It was in an old apartment where I was half asleep, and I woke up and there was the guy standing there, full denim, just watching. We have heard some interaction with other spirits, so I believe that they can. A friend of mine tells a story about how my friend Chris Balzano, he's a fantastic, he wrote all these great books on ghost hunting. He talked about a house in Boston where there were all these EVPs and all these voices, and then another voice comes in and says, shh, they're recording you. So, and there's a motorcycle go by as that. So
of course
they must be, but some I feel like are very aware, and they may know exactly what you're doing, and they may talk to you. And others I feel like we might look like just a light to them or something, not as, so it's kind of hard to tell. It probably depends on their consciousness.
Wow. And so going to the residual thing where you kind of mentioned where time and space, it has a certain energy, right? So what's been like your encounter with having that time and space of energy with, let's say, Hollywood? Because I feel like Hollywood, especially like the star plate with the stars, I'm like blanking on my own city right now, whatever.
Walk of Fame.
The Walk of Fame, thank you. Like, I feel like that region especially has weird energy. Like, I don't know if you feel it, or like even like Teddy, the Roosevelt Hotel, like that whole old Hollywood just has a weird energy, as well as the comedy room.
Yes, and the Comedy Store the
Comedy
Store has something else going on totally. That's like its own thing with the history there of what it used to be, and that has some really dark stuff that's non-human. But not only is Hollywood, first of all, performers have big energy. You can see I have a huge ego and a big energy. And first of all theaters are haunted. So, and yes, that was originally one time that was going to be my TV show to do a show and then investigative theater. But it makes sense because performers have that big energy. They love the theater. They love performing. So do usually people are working in the theater, not for the money, but because they love it. So there's sort of this, and then you take the audience's energy of this intent all in one area. So it becomes like a good place for spirits. So it is usually friendly haunting, or or something like that. But Hollywood, first of all, there's something else that's really interesting about Hollywood. It's not just the history, but when people go to the Walk of Fame, there's love, there's, sadness, this person is gone, or this is my star, or whatever. People go to Hollywood with so much energy, and there's so many people, so many tourists, everything, that yes, it creates a bigger thing. It's also so much disappointment in Hollywood. Like disappointment, suicide. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like LA especially has these big sweeping energies. If I'm in a bad mood, I'll hear it all over the place and get on the freeway, and it's like it sweeps across. And the same with good. So it's just there's so much energy here that I think everything ignites.
Yeah, I feel that way about New York also. Like,
exactly. Yep.
If you are having a bad day, then you're fucked, because like it's just gonna come at you like so hard, and it's like such a public place, you don't have as much privacy, so it is just like you are so susceptible to it.
Yeah. And yes, exactly. And I think New York is even a little worse, because at least we can, like, here we get out. I think we feel like we have a lot more space.
Yeah. And could we talk, like, what is your general feeling of like the collective energy that's happening right now?
There's a couple of things, which is, I feel like we just have to make it to the end of January. I mean, not that all the problems are going to be solved,
right?
But, we need to get past this one hump of whatever's going to happen there needs to happen. And the overall is good. I have nothing but great view of the overall. We're moving out of the patriarchy into the matriarchy. We're moving into, the patriarch, or the patriarchy is not just men. It's the way the whole collective works. And it's just white knuckling. We don't want to change. But so I do think we're going in the right direction, but I think it's a bumpy road. And right now, even this last week, I've had so many clients that were like so down in the dumps, and people have to stop and know, number one, yes, it could be really hard. You could have lost your job and don't know where your next month, and that's good. But it seems to be compiled by this energy of fear all around the planet. And then this weird political thing, whatever that is. And even if you're not political, you're absorbing all this. So everybody's being pushed. And the overall is, we need to kind of, like, before COVID, I'm sure you remember, everybody was like, oh, I just wish I had time for that. I wish I had time. Well, now you got time.
Yes.
So go inward, meditate, find out what you really want, take care of yourself, and make an effort to, if you're really, really depressed, ask yourself, is this mine, or does this belong to the collective?
I feel like there's a huge cleansing going on right now, where like people, usually we could have like this form of escapism, whether it's going to the bar or hanging out with friends and working ourselves to the bone at an office space, but like we have none of that right now. It's like you are so stuck with these like thought patterns that you've been trying to avoid, that you have no choice but to face them right now.
Exactly. And everybody should, this is the best time to say, what do I really want to do? Like, maybe, you have always been working in an office and you wanted to be an actor. Well, you know what? Map it out, and stop with all those voices that say you're too old or you're not good looking enough, whatever. Just ask yourself, if I could do anything, what would I do? And map it out.
Yes.
How do you start? I start with acting classes. I act up, or maybe it's comedy, or maybe you just want to be, an interior designer or a hairdresser. Just what do you want to be doing? And don't stop until you get what that is.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like we're also trying to like find like permission, like someone to give us that green light to say, okay, you can do this, right?
Yes.
And like with the internet, especially, like you can, if you wanted to be a stand-up comedian, you can just go on and say jokes online. Like you don't even have to do that person to person and like get like certified by a club or anything.
Right. And you can take a class, or you can, you know, email other comics, or this is the place where we're really learning how much we've been oppressed, or how much we hear what our parents told us, or, you know, nice girls don't talk like that, or whatever. And it's really a time to regroup and just, what do you want to do? You know, sometimes the best decisions I've ever made in my life have come from the place of nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like, I have nothing to lose now. And then you're like, well, I might as well do that if I have nothing to lose.
Yeah, it kind of changes your attitude because you have like literally no fear attached to that outcome anymore. And it's the outcome, I think, that messes with people. It's like, I have to get this outcome, and if I don't get it, then it's a failure.
Exactly. You know, I always have this saying. I remember when I was like $20,000 in debt, I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. I'm never going to get it. I can buy this shirt for this much. But then when you get to be like, you're $100 in debt, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to buy anything. So you kind of have to remember that place of nothing to lose. Not that you should go in debt, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you, with the big picture of what you want to do, nothing
Yeah.
to lose.
Yes. Is there like a overall theme that you would title 2021 with the energy, if you could?
I'm trying to think now. My friend Paul Jasek, he's a medium and a psychic, and he does this perfectly. His saying for 2020, in January of 2020, I have a tape of him, and his saying was, "Let go or be dragged." Right? And then in 2021, he came on my podcast again, and he was like, "I don't think we let go." And I was like, "No, I think we got dragged." And I'm not sure. Oh, I know what his one was for 2021. I think it was something like, what owns you, or what do you answer to? It was something like that. Like, do you answer to alcohol? Do you answer to your creative voice? And another one, I think my friend Angela Lavelle said, normal has been canceled. And I think that's important, because we keep reaching back to see, oh, when will I be able to do that again? What if it's better? What if we go, when will I get to try this new thing? Or when will I get to do this? And that's what we want to remember. Normal is canceled, but that doesn't mean that change is bad. It's good.
Yeah, but I think it's like, it's an ego death. It's a collective ego death, I feel like. And that is the scariest thing for the ego, because it's like, oh my God, like, I'm no longer who I am anymore.
Right.
So something that just came to me as a ping was to talk about Hotel Cecil, and that was in downtown LA. Like, could we really quickly talk about Hotel Cecil, because that was a fascinating story. If you could quickly run that story also.
Sure. There's the Hotel Cecil, or the Cecil, I guess is what they used to call it. I couldn't get in. I didn't make it in time, and I was going to do it. I wanted to get in and do a ghost hunt, and they knocked it down. But that doesn't mean
that the energy,
right. That's not, because they knocked down Linda Vista Hospital, which was one of the most haunted places in LA, and now what they built there is having trouble. So they didn't change the energy. You know, the stories with the Cecil, which they're sort of to what's the show that's on FX, that American Horror Story?
Yes.
American Horror Story sort of did its own version of the Cecil, but it was pretty right on. Richard Ramirez had stayed there. It was just this horrible hotel, and forever it's been haunted. Stories long gone. It's got classic, craziness, not necessarily friendly hauntings, really scary ones. And then the last story that came with it, which for some reason I think was why they kind of decided that this has to go, is there's a tape online and people can look it up. And she was a girl from Canada, and she was an Asian girl, and she was staying there. And the very last time she was seen, she was coming in and out of the elevator, and she kept looking like something was chasing her, and then she was kind of pushing back, and then she'd walk out again, and then she'd push all the buttons. This really odd behavior that the video camera caught. And then they never saw her again. And then months later, everybody in the place is like, the water's starting to smell. And then they found her body in the water tank. And I believe they still don't know how she got in there or who put her body. Like, it makes no sense. And the body was decaying in the water. And I think at that point, they're like, yeah, we can't just change the name. And I think now it's under construction.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like that is like let's just keep it an empty building. Let's just keep it an empty building, keep it for history. Because there's a lot of empty buildings, like off of Fountain, I feel like, in West Hollywood. There's like a particular one. I can't remember the name. I think it's owned by Sterling, that basketball owner, Sterling.
Oh.
But it's like I just see a lot of empty buildings, and I feel like they're creepy also for some reason.
They are. A lot of places look creepy, and they're not haunted, but they when things create fear, it's like, you asked me about ghosts. Another kind of ghost would be somebody that's like a drug addict, and they die of an overdose, and they don't kind of know that they did, and they will wait in an area where they got drugs, and then will come along another live drug addict, and this person the spirit will want the drugs, and it attaches.
Oh,
so now,
shit.
Yeah, the living person has sort of double the addiction issue, because it's handling for two people now. So,
wow.
Yeah, whenever you're compromising your aura, which is like, if you're drunk, that's why alcohol is called spirits, because spirits attach when. Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps all over again. Yes, because I think you mentioned, like, in another podcast that, like, spirits are prone to hanging out at bars because that's when people are so vulnerable and compromised in their energy field, and spirits can just jump in.
Jump on.
Yeah. Is that like similar to like a walk-in almost?
I think it's a little, it can be that there's sort of three definitions of that too. So a walk-in can happen. And a lot of times when you hear people that have blackout drunk stories, I think that's when it happens, because people that blackout drunk, really, they may be the nicest person you've ever met, and they've done something so horrible that it's not them. I think there's that. There's also the temporary walk-in. And this will happen oftentimes when you're investigating, if everyone doesn't know how to energetically protect themselves. And I've seen that where people are, it would be me and my voice, but somebody, like, if I all of a sudden was yelling at you and blah, 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 and just, foul mouthed or whatever. And you almost know that immediately. Sometimes the person is aware, sometimes they're not. So that's a walk-in. And then sometimes there's a walk-in where literally two spirits change bodies for good.
Yeah. Yes. How can people protect, like, their auric field and their, like, energy from, like?
Well, yeah, the easiest way is, and I don't want to say positive thoughts. Well, it's kind of being positive, but it's not a fake.
Yeah.
Like, if you're depressed, you got to deal with it, but to try and stay in a positive state. If you're around a bunch of people gossiping, that's a negative state. You want to get away from it. You want to just be aware of who you keep around you. Another odd tool is that woman that wrote the book about tidying up.
Yeah, Marie Kondo.
Like she said, Marie Kondo, keep your home like, I love my home. I love it. I love this stuff. Keep it upbeat. People should use salt. If they take baths, they should take salt baths. If they take showers, they should salt scrub. Those are really kind of the basics. If you are, if you have a boss that's particularly negative, you can just picture a mirror between you and them, the mirror facing them. You want to reflect their energy back to them. And that actually works really well when you have bad neighbors. Like, if I had a neighbor against this wall that was loud or mean, I'd put that mirror up with the back towards me to send their energy back to them. There's a book by Chris Penzak called Witch's Shield that is my favorite book in the world. Everyone should read that book about protecting their energy. But the long short of it is trying to stay positive, stay with positive people. Also, it's very interesting because on my podcast on the 29th, I did my friend Diette, who is like a master channeler. Like we said 100 times, don't try this at home. But she channeled a fallen angel. She channeled this demon. And it was the most enlightening conversation. Like he was saying how they don't see humans. He doesn't see humans. He sees what's off balance. So if there's too much light, he knows he has to come in. And a really good example of that was I asked him, Mother Teresa became possessed once. And I was like, why Mother Teresa? And he said, because she took this pass. She was like, I'm all light. Here comes the sun.
Right on time.
That's when you know you're on.
Right.
She took this pass where she was like, I'm all about light and I'm all about good. And she was sort of ignoring her shadow side. So they kind of came in and were like, no, you're dark too. So people know your dark side. When you know your dark side, you can still remain positive. But when you really know yourself, you know, like I know, I get jealous, I get competitive, and when you merge yourself, that sort of, you know, keeps it good. But it was a very interesting conversation.
Oh my God, so much I want to spit on right now. But like just like the shadow self, it's like what Carl Jung like termed as like the shadow, and like having to do like shadow integration, because once you get to know the shadow, that is actually where your inner power lies.
Yes. And religion wants us to be good and follow the rules. And then there's a punishment if you don't. And there's very little room. You know, Jesus was all about forgiveness. And that's what I find, especially with a lot of my clients. Nobody wants to forgive themselves. There's been some sort of a reward for hating yourself or feeling guilty or something like that.
Yes.
And really the integration of the shadow self makes you, there's a part of it that makes you not think you're better than anyone else. You can connect to other people, but it is that sort of definition of just be good. That was what was so interesting about that conversation. He was like, we're looking for people that just think they're good. You know what I mean? Like, wake up, be yourself, be balanced was the message.
Oh, it's beautiful. And like, I also, just to add on, like, I also think it's just like judgment, especially with religion. I think that was like judgment was the indoctrination. So it's like we are judging not only ourselves, but our neighbors. And we are so addicted to the judgment. And like, that's what keeps it going, I feel also.
Absolutely. Just the words of Jesus. It doesn't matter what religion you're in. You're like, well, this makes sense. This sounds good. You know? Just his words, everything else taken out. Yeah.
Shout out to Jesus. We need you here right now. But I do think like collectively the Schumann resonance, if you are familiar with that, it is like going off the charts right now. It is the highest it's ever been. Like there is more light on the planet than like since like, I don't know, God knows how long, but it's like all coming down on our planet right now.
Yeah. And it's interesting, the metamorphosis that's going on that the astrologers have talked about forever. Now, I'm not an astrologer, but I watch all of them, and I would love to learn. I'm trying to learn, but it's a lot. Like, people don't understand. It's not just what's your sign. It's enormous amount of information. And they've been talking about this forever, about the switch that's coming, like I said, out of the patriarchy into the matriarchy. And it really is a better place. But yeah, the Schumann resonance is one of them. People are waking up. People that used to see ghosts as a kid and then pushed it away, it's coming back. Everyone's a little more intuitive. Everyone's getting a little more magic. And at the same time, like Mother Earth and the coronavirus is a little bit like, and we got to get rid of some. Your DNA has to change. Like all these things at once. So may you live in interesting times, right?
Yeah. And I think like I've been hearing this a lot where it's like we just all chose to come down here at this time because it's been like prophesized for the longest time that, you know, what's going down right now is just like the most momentous time in history to be a part of. Like just,
and you know what else? I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is the time where, like you and I were talking about therapy earlier. And you can go to, I think talk therapy is on its way out, or it has to be in conjunction with something else, whether it's energetic therapy, whether it's tapping, or my therapist does something, like I avoided therapy for 55 years, and then someone said, my therapist does this, and I was like, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I go in, and every week I feel like we're tackling things faster than ever. It's like the universe wants you to get over shit right now. So it is helping, it is pushing. It's not years of talking anymore. You can really become the person you want to become much easier now.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And it's scary because I think like especially people that aren't versed in the magical esoteric world, you know, that they kind of just distance themselves from it. I think they're probably going to have a bit of a tougher time because they don't know what the fuck is going on because we barely know what the fuck is going on.
Exactly. And you know, there's this mad dash to get back. This wonderful my friend Shanna Gilbert was on my podcast, and she had done too much pot. She'd done an edible or something, but she talked about, she got all these channelings about the vibration of everything and how organic food is a much higher vibration than processed food and all this stuff. And people are just all of a sudden, they don't know why, but like, hey, let's start a garden. I don't want to live so close to everybody. I want to grow my own food. I want some space. I want to be on the earth. That is instinctively happening. And I do think that people, and this isn't about companies, because there's some great companies. I will forever scream about Dr. Bonner's soap and things like that, that they can be a big company and work for the good of everybody. But the ones, I think the Monsantos and the 5Gs and stuff like that, they're going to start to feel the resistance of Mother Earth and of a lot of people turning away from them.
Yeah. It's, you could see it happening now. It's just like an emotional vibrational shift that's going on. Wow, what an exciting time.
Yes, I feel the same. It's funny. I don't know if it's because after menopause your hormones even out or what, but to me, I feel like sometimes people jump on me and think I'm being negative, but I'm like, no, we're in the movie. We're in the movie. It's not negative. It's like we've watched it for so long. Now we're in it.
I am convinced that like we are part of the Truman Show and all of the aliens up there are watching us with their popcorn. They're like, yeah, like this is about to be epic. Like watching. Like,
I know. Yes, and we can break that third wall and go like, yeah, I got this, and really, really do. But it's almost interesting when those people that broke into the Capitol, the rage on their faces, the rage and the desperation was like, it didn't even look human to me.
Yo, oh, that is a whole different topic. But like, I feel like also, for me, I can speak for myself. Like, I am getting exhausted. I don't watch the news, but like, my go-to was conspiracy theories for the longest time. But now, even the conspiracy theories have exhausted me. So I can't go on the internet or the news. Like, I am just meditating and on the beach, like in nature. Like,
exactly, yeah, because conspiracies are very funny in that somebody's done a masterful job of starting. Anybody that knows my podcast knows I don't like 5G. I don't think it's necessary. And I think it's a lot of EMF on us. And there's ways that you can take care of that. The ways that with shungite or stuff, or, you want to keep your cell phone in a EMF blocking, all that stuff. But then it somehow dovetails into something to do with Bill Gates, and then something to do with the vaccine, and something so that the original person, me, that's going, I don't want to live near a 5G tower, is all of a sudden thought to be crazy. The you know what I mean? Like, it's taking one thing and then it blows it up so big that everything sounds crazy. And I think that's by design. I do. Another conspiracy that someone's kind of doing.
Yeah. I think it's like if you want to be on this side, then you will have the narrative of this side, and if you want to be on the opposite side, you will still have a narrative of the opposite side. So you're never really in balance. You're picking a side, and that causes like this division.
Exactly. One of the best things I did was I had a landline installed because I didn't want to do all my readings up with my cell phone. I sleep better. I have a little headphone for that line, and everything is so much better. And I have my phone with me all the time. Don't kid me, I'm a phone addict.
Yeah.
But to not have it on and up by my face all the time has made an enormous
Yeah.
difference.
I turn off my phone. Like, I don't even charge it anymore because I don't have anywhere to go. So that thing just like runs its course, and like I will check it like 1 p.m. the next day. Like I can't be bothered like checking it the first thing in the morning.
I'm terrible with emails, as you know. Probably. I've learned to, especially in show business, it makes me crazy because I have Facebook and Instagram, and sometimes clubs will contact me through them, and I'm like, you just gotta be patient because I don't look all the time anymore.
Yeah. Let's jump into tarot, because I know we were talking about the paranormal, but I don't know much. I have always loved tarot. I used to have a YouTube tarot addiction. But like, what's been your experience with tarot? Has there been like a memorable time where you were like, oh shit, like this is crazy, this crazy story?
So many times. And actually, I teach a tarot class. So if anybody goes to my website, they can take my class. I'm trying to think of a really good, there's so many, because I do it every day, I kind of forget. But I think the way a lot of tarot readers will say they can't read themselves. And I feel like I can. And there's two reasons why I can, which is I call tarot off the cards and on the cards. So I have studied so much about the cards that if you ask me a question and I'm kind of distracted and I go, okay, I can look directly at the cards and put the puzzle together. When I do a reading where I'm sitting with someone, it's a little bit of that, and it's a little bit of what I call, I glance at the cards and I wait to hear what goes on in my head. So it's a combination. And because of that, I can read my own cards. I have to stay on the cards. I had a boyfriend once, and it was new. And so he wasn't really a boyfriend. And I kept pulling the cards, and they kept saying, you're going to walk away, you're going to walk away. And I kept going, I'd be crazy. I'm not walking away. This is the time you guys got it wrong. And sure enough, something happened. And I walked away, and I was like, okay. So I don't even read that much anymore, or I'm careful what I ask. And I'll say that sometimes to my clients, like, especially if they're like, are my boyfriend and I going to make it through this year? I'll read that, and I'll say, I can go further, but we don't have to. Because sometimes people get that in their head. One of the very specific things in my class I talk about is when you're reading for pregnant ladies or ladies that want to get pregnant, you have to choose your words very carefully. You don't want to get any seeds planted in their head that they're having a miscarriage or that, give it up. Nothing like that. You want to be very careful in choosing your words. I might say things like, not at this time, but, later. But people really give you so much power that there's a lot of readers that are just like, I just blurted out, sometimes they don't like it. No. I'm more of a compassionate, like, okay, let's look at this. Like, I just feel like you have to be careful what you tell people when they give you this gift of hearing, like letting your subconscious hear. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, no.
But yes, I feel like I could teach a history class in the Rider-Waite deck because I still read books on it all the time. Like Pamela Coleman Smith, her picture's right over here. I walk by every day and I go, thank you.
That is awesome. Could you give us a brief history of the tarot?
Well, the Rider deck, which is not, this is very interesting because I always hear people say tarot was designed, or the first tarot deck was found, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like every time someone says that, they find it further back. And there's a couple of legends. One of them, and I don't know if this is true because they're all legends, was that people used to use tarot to communicate. When you had different gypsies and tribes and they didn't have the same language, they could pull out a card like, do you have a medicine man, or something like that. But Pamela Coleman Smith, the one I like, I own ones that are further back, and now there are so many, and they're so beautiful. Their art, that's what my friend Elaine says, their art. She's right. I think it's been forever. I think it's just been a tool forever. Our real playing deck came from tarot. So when people are all freaked out about the cards, I say, have you ever been to Vegas? Well, then you've been playing with tarot cards, Another funny thing is, for movie script writers, they say there's only 3 stories. And Ron Howard says there's actually only one. And that is the Fool's Journey. That is the major arcana. Somebody wrote a book called The Writer's Journey, and he was writing the Fool's Journey, word for word for word, about how to write a script. So I think I think the history has just been forever. Pamela Coleman Smith was commissioned to do these. She was a playwright. So you see certain symbolism in the cards. Here, I'll even show you. Like, this is my new favorite thing. This is how clever she was and how much something went into every single thing that she did. And of course, that's up open to interpretation. I should have had this card out. But the other day I was reading on the Chariot card, and I was reading, it's about balance. So I know the general meaning, it's about male power, it's about honesty. And then it said to show balance in the shoulders, and those blue shoulders, if you look really close, those are the comedy and tragedy masks of theater.
Oh, snap. Oh.
Right? So he's got one on each shoulder to show he's in the middle. And that was like, and just another thing where I was like, would have never seen it. You know what I mean? I know. Super.
So much symbolism.
Yes. And he's the card of speech. So it would also make sense that those would be in there. But there is so much symbolism. And sometimes the symbolism is, like, and I tell people when they take my class, don't memorize anything. Let it come to you. Like, there's the symbolism can be anything to know that queens never move. Queens stay on their throne. Kings can move around. So if someone says, should I move? And you get the Queen of Wands, no, you're staying there. Just these subtle things that that eventually you don't have to calculate. They just come to you. And then it can be as easy as, I knew someone and her sister had passed away, and they were cleaning out her house. And she kept saying, we can't find the keys. We can't find the keys. So if I can find it fast enough, the card that came up, I said, let me see if you're going to find those keys, because I feel like you're going to find them. And so this card came up. Hold on a sec. I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Let me find the Hierophant. It's always the last one in the deck when I want to find it. Okay, where is he? Where is he? It's funny. This deck is plastic. They're very slippery. Right at the bottom are the keys to the kingdom. One is silver and one is gold. Okay, you see those keys right there? And this was the card that came up. And I said to her, the keys are right in front of you. And a couple of days later, it was that easy. It was like, oh my God, it's the only card with keys on them. And this is the card you get. The keys are right in front of you. And it had been that they were those fold-up keys. And they were right on the counter, but she didn't know that they were fold-up keys. So sometimes it's that simple, and sometimes you have to work and
extra.
Take a minute. Yeah.
So with tarot, if let's say you gave someone a reading, is it fixed that this would happen, or can the timeline of it, is it fluid? Like, how does that work?
It's fluid. A tarot reading is the path that someone is on right now. So they can change it. So don't ever let a tarot reader or a psychic depress you with what they're saying, because you are in control of your future. But this is the path you are on now. And I think it's sort of the same way that life is, in that you have bullet points in your life that you're going to get to. If this guy is supposed to be your husband, you're not going to miss him because you didn't log on to eHarmony at 12 o'clock last Friday. You're going to meet this person if you're supposed to meet them. Everything, all the other details are sort of filled in. A thing that I always think is like, let's say I'm supposed to be famous on your show, a tarot reader. Okay, I could spend my whole life having fun and learning and doing tarot, or I could spend my life feeling bad for myself, hoping this would happen. I may land in the same place, but how much more fun did I have in the journey?
It's all about the journey.
And people, especially waiting to meet their soulmate, are missing the journey completely.
Preach.
Everyone's waiting for that outcome to meet someone, and then they get married, and then they call me and they want to know when they're going to get divorced. It's all about the journey.
Yes. I 100%. I just think like we get so excited like that we need that outcome to finally fill the gap that's within us. So we think like when I finally get that job title, or the husband, wife, or whatever, then my life will be complete and I can live my life. And then until then, I'm not going to be able to live it.
Yep, never. And it's a funny thing too, because especially finances right now, everybody's freaked out about money.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Everyone that's had money, I mean, I don't know, you have money, you lose money. You do the best you can. I remember when I first was starting in comedy and I had nothing, and I was at that age where I was like, all my friends have retirement plans and I have nothing. And then the housing market crashed, and then we were all at zero. And I was like, well, there we go. You do the best you can and you roll with the punches. That's it. But you are so right on the outcome thing.
Yeah. And I think we are all at zero once again, like with this whole reset going on. Like there's no more bragging on Instagram about your travel trips, like etc. Like we are all at zero doing the best we can once again.
Absolutely. The best we can. Yes.
Is there like a message that we could give to the collective right now, with the vibe going on?
Let's see. I would say it's kind of hard because also I know it's so hard because we're so split. And I almost kind of feel like we might be, I don't want to say we're past fixing that, but the other day I put on something about that and I got people that were so angry that I had suggested that we come to peace. And I'm not good about that either. I will find someone that, I'll delete people for the wrong reasons too. So believe me, I know my shadow side. I think the best thing people can do right now is find their own happiness and their own compassion, because people that punish themselves are going to punish others or are going to hold up judgments. So find that compassion in yourself, and then you will see it in others. Those people look so scary to me, but they also were probably someone that if I was sitting next to them on a plane, we'd start talking, and you know what I mean? Nobody's all evil. Nobody's all bad. And it's trying to remember to connect like that. Which, like I said, I'm no genius at it either, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
So find your own compassion and happiness.
That's beautiful. Like, I think that we are tapping more into the occult side of things. Like, I'm thinking, like, in the dark ages when they believed in magic because there was no other explanation, I feel like that's happening again. And then the second enlightenment is reaching towards us as well.
Yes, exactly. And I also feel like it was always said, there was a question in Psychology Today why women were more attracted to magic or astrology, and their answer was an oppressed the half that's oppressed needs to find their power. So that's how women would find their power. I also think it's the matriarchy. That's the female side of your brain that is actually very intuitive. And now you see the occult isn't really split anymore. Men are coming into it because they're getting in touch with their female side. So I think it's also it's about to become undeniable too, that it really exists.
Last question for me. Does smudging, like Palo Santo and all of that, help with like the spirits and like the energy if you want to clear it in the room?
It does. I'm a little picky about what I do because, again, my friend Angela Lavelle says this best. She is such a good speaker. She says, burning sage is like bleach. You're bleaching the whole room. You're getting rid of everything. Palo Santo gets rid of negative. So if you want to get negative energy out, I would use Palo Santo. I use incense all the time. Frankincense and myrrh, or lavender, or star of anise. Those are like putting this coating on your wall of sort of protection. So I just like to keep up with it all the time with the incense. And then because I read tarot, I use a few other things. But I really love Palo Santo and incense. My favorite thing.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time doing this. I so appreciate it. Go ahead.
I would tell people one more thing. I use singing bowls and bells. Negative energies don't like bells. So please have some bells or some really good energy music.
Is it the frequency? It's just like they can't handle that frequency that's vibrating?
I think it's the frequency, and I have to find this out, but my friend Elaine was telling me about that's why bells are sometimes on the handles of doors in stores.
Oh, okay. Oh, snap. Yeah, that makes sense, because especially at like a store, because it's more susceptible to the public and energy. Interesting. I think we need to create like a bell for the internet. Like
Exactly.
Wonderful. Where can people find you, Karen?
You all can find me at KarenRontowski.com, which is just like it's spelled, Rontowski, Paranormal Karen. Or if you really forget, you can put in comedian Karen RON, and I will come up. And and they can book a reading, they can take a tarot class, they can see my comedy, or they can see me for 3 months at Cape Cod this summer. I'll be doing comedy. So,
awesome.
A whole bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful. And you just updated your website, and it looks really cool. Like,
good. Thank you. Yes, I just did it. So I'm starting a blog and a comedy calendar. It's not quite all caught up yet, but it's there.
Yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, here you have Karen Rontowski, tarot reader, stand-up comedian, paranormal specialist. I love it. Thank you so much for doing this with me. And if anyone is looking for a reading, go to Karen, because she is my, she's one of my secret weapons dealing with life.
Thank you, darling. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.